Alright, in this video we're moving on to number 16 in Unit 2-2. So, no, 2-1. I think I might be mistaking that. 2-1, problem 16. Tabitha's eyes are 5 feet above the ground. She's looking at a bird's nest in a tree. We are simply being asked to find the height of the bird's nest. So, here's my lovely picture I've already got set up. You'll note that her eyes, I've noted 5 feet. They also do tell you that she is 12 feet away from the tree. She is 5 feet tall. And then from her eyes, it is 74.5 degrees of elevation. So again, maybe not the most accurate in terms of the actual triangle, but the numbers are there and we can use that. Here's the x that I'm going to solve for first. So I've already expanded that out with the important information. I have the angle. I have 12 feet on the adjacent side. And what we're being asked for is the first step would be to solve the height of this triangle, because then what we'll do is we'll be able to take that height plus the 5 feet and answer the question, the height of the bird's nest. So let's get solving. Black, that works. Again, angle with an opposite and an adjacent, that is a tangent ratio. And that would be the x over 12, opposite over adjacent. If you multiply both sides by 12, you get x equals 12 times that tangent ratio at 74.5 degrees. We find x. X is 3. Oh, hold on. Let me make sure I got this right. It is x equals 43.27. So if the height of x is 43.27 feet, that little apostrophe there, that's telling me that from her eyes up to the bird's nest with a little blue jay in there, that in itself is 43.27. The problem is the question doesn't ask how far is she from the nest. It is asking what is the height of the bird's nest altogether. So what we need to do is say height of the bird's nest is really equal to 43.27 plus the height of Tabitha, which is 5. So height is equal to 48.27. And that is the final answer. We box that in, we're good to go. Number 17. 17, we have 2 bike ramps. So what it's saying is they each cover a horizontal distance of 8 feet. So if you were to lay this thing on the ground and measure from the base of the ramp to the top of the ramp, I mean like the other end of the ramp, it would cover 8 feet of ground. The difference is the first one here, the shorter ramp, even though it's still going to cover 8 feet, it only has an incline of 20 degrees. See, and that's where they differ, because the other ramp, it's still going to have an 8-foot footprint, as I would call it, but it's going to be risen much, much taller at a 35-degree angle. So it's going to ask how much longer is the ramp, right? So what we're really looking for is the length of that hypotenuse compared to the length of this hypotenuse. And we're going to determine the distance one is longer than the other. So in doing that, let's look at that and see. Yeah, so our 2 triangles, what we have is the angle, the adjacent side to that angle, and we're looking for the hypotenuse. So adjacent hypotenuse is cosine. And let's start with a smaller one. We'll set that up and make sure we get the right color codings. So cosine of 20 degrees. That's going to be the adjacent 8 over the hypotenuse, h. And what we're going to take care of is getting that h by itself. So in previous videos, I'm not going to go over it again. The shortcut is going to be to swap places the h and the cosine 20. And we have h is equal to 8 over cosine 20. And when we do that in our calculator, 8 divided by cosine 20, 8.51. I'm going to round that off to the nearest hundredth, so 8.51, so only 8.5 feet, that is. Okay, now let's go back to the other triangle. We've got 35 degrees, so cosine of 35 is still 8 over x. Again, we're going to replace, we're going to swap places the x and the cosine. 8 over cosine. And this time we get because we're changing the angle, we should get a different number, even though the 8 stays the same. And yes, I get 9.77. So we know the length of each ramp, but what is the question asking? Is it asking for what is the length of ramp A or B? No, it's asking how much longer is the ramp, the second one from the first. So what we really need to do is, let's go with red. We'll call this length. That length is how much longer. Length is going to be x minus h, which is 977. It's 851. So how much longer, if we do the math, comes out to be about 1.25 feet. Box it in. Make sure we answered the question at hand. We did. We should be all set. By the way, that is 977 minus 851 is probably closer to 1.26, but I kept the exact values when I did the subtractions, and it actually comes out to 1.25. So either one of those will work. 18. Let's look at 18. Yeah, we can do 18 because it's pretty quick. The London Eye observation wheel, there it is, identifying the height 135 meters tall, and if a passenger at the top has an angle of depression of 58 degrees, that's that kind of orange angle of depression, and it's asking what is the distance between the aquarium that they are seeing at that angle of depression. There's that little fish in there for the aquarium, and they're just asking simply what is, in this case I wrote it as D, what is the distance from the observation wheel to the aquarium. So the first thing I want to note is that the, I guess I'll put this in blue, the angle of depression 58, again, alternate interior angles says that we have an angle of elevation from the aquarium of 58 degrees. So this, we've got a triangle that looks like this. We've got 135. Yes, I just drew that. I drew that sideways. 58 degrees. And we want D. So pretty straightforward problem. We have an angle. We have the opposite side. We have the desire for the adjacent side. So tangent 58. 135 over D. Again, shortcut is swap places the D and the tangent. We get D 135 tangent. D, when we run that, let me get this right answer. Well, I guess I can just put it in calculator. 135 tangent 58. So 135 divided by tangent of 58 degrees. Close that parentheses, hit enter. D is 84.36. 84. And again, check your units. These are not feet. They are not miles. They are meters. So we box this in. We say, yep, we are happy with that. We've answered the question at hand, the distance between them, and we are good to roll. So I'm going to pause this. We are on to number 19 in the next video.